Hi, welcome back to Cambridge Inside Out. I'm Judy Nathans,
And I'm Robert Winters.
and we're gonna. There's still some things that came up last night. We've
It's
gone
true.
past the
We've gotten
major
past
event.
Nakagawa Brown.
Yeah.
That was the big controversial
Yeah.
one. So other items of some significance. Let's see, what was really significant in this? I think we did make a little bit of a mention. I don't think it was actually discussed, but it was
What?
sort of was on the agenda item was to have the city pursue some kind of whatever is necessary to have the area in the vicinity of Sherman Street
The
reclassified
trains,
as a
yes.
so-called quiet zone. Like,
Or
you
to,
know,
they go 79 miles per hour through there.
They do,
I
yeah.
was amazed at that.
yeah,
There's
no,
been no accidents in the last
no, there have been
15.
accidents and there
Really?
have been fatalities at Sherman Street. There's no question
Oh.
about it. And
Well,
sometimes
then they do need.
it's people
should be
being
doing their horn then.
yeah. I mean, the question is how much of a horn do you need, and are the gates sufficient? Were the
Yeah.
fatalities or injuries that have occurred there over the years, were they always right at Sherman Street? At least one was, I know. Sometimes it's just people cutting across the
Yeah.
tracks.
Okay.
People who live in some of the public housing coming over to the Fresh Pond Shopping Center. There have been deaths.
But I
along
guess
the
the
track.
issue was that for a long time they forgot about that, and there wasn't a horn when there should have been.
Right,
Over
Yeah.
10 years, so
Yeah.
I think that's the issue. It's like
right.
ooh,
That was the issue,
yeah.
and so now basically they're in compliance, but now people don't like it. So there's probably some ways to do it. So there's the expensive solution, which is to change the grade of the tracks. If you think about it,
Oh.
if you go up to Porter Square, it's below grade, right?
Right.
But then it's back at grade at the Park Street crossing over in Somerville, and then it's down below grade when you get down near
I never
Union
paid
Square.
that much attention.
Right. So the thing is, you can change the grade of railroad tracks,
Yeah.
rights of way, but it's expensive, and you can't just dip like this. I mean, you have to do it over. It's got to be very gradual. So it's a huge project, and the complaints of a few neighbors is probably not sufficient to get that much capital
Really?
investment going.
Well, what is the city? Which order was that, by the way? Was that?
Oh, I forget. Yeah.
I'm looking at it right
But
now. Okay.
but I can say it's there are a lot of people who are pretty energized about this. In a way, I wouldn't quite say it's as energetic as a few years ago when there was a proposal to move ethanol laden trains through the area,
Oh.
and people all up and down that line were fearful because they did the calculation. They said
Yeah.
if there was an accident and there was some immolation of alcohol bearing trains, that the fireball would have wiped out life within some radius of
Oh,
the
boy.
train. And so there was a lot of fear about that. This is more concerned about noise.
So they want to redesignate it a quiet zone.
A quiet zone, yeah.
And then-
and
but
there are
then-
certain things you have to do, like you have to say, okay, are there no school buses during certain hours? Are there this or
But
that?
isn't
whatever.
it require them going slower though, and that they?
I think that's
and
right.
then
You
the
can-
train people say they can't do that. It would just conflict with schedules. And
Right,
everything. It's
yeah.
supposed to be 15 miles per hour.
Well, but the
No.
thing is that maybe this is going to sound wild, but
Yeah.
if they ever build that Alewife T station, the commuter rail station, and the bridge that was supposed to go over the commuter rails,
Well, yeah,
that
sure.
would put an intervening stop
50
just down
years
the road,
maybe. Yeah,
and then
right.
so therefore, if a train was either heading westbound or eastbound through there,
It couldn't be 80
heading-
miles per hour at
yeah,
that point.
because so you're
Yeah.
either heading toward or leaving the
Yeah.
station there.
That's a
Chances
long
are you
way
would have
away.
much lower speeds during that stretch.
That's like the 500-year plan.
Yeah, that's right. That's the fun
I think that's
500-year
not gonna-
plan.
Plan, I'm
Right.
sorry.
Right. So,
Oh.
yeah. Anyway, so I don't know.
Interesting.
Honestly, I can sometimes make a pretty good guess as to how I think something's going to play out.
Yeah.
I've been around the block a few times. Usually,
Okay, so how would
I
you
have
think?
no idea how this one's going to.
Well, it got referred to the city manager, and he's going
And
to
they're
report
meeting.
back.
Oh, they're working at it.
City, MassDOT, Federal Railway Administration, MBTA, and any
But
other. Yeah.
when you do things that are kind of interagency, and especially if
Yeah.
it's like federal regulations
There's
and
a lot of
state
red tape,
versus
I
this,
bet.
and rigidity in terms of the rules.
Yeah.
They might say, well, that's all well and good,
Right.
but tough luck. We're concerned about personal safety, so
Yeah.
the horns will continue. Thank you. Right. So I have no idea how that's going to work itself out in the long haul. One of the agenda items, there was nothing to discuss, by the way, on this one either.
Yeah.
But I found it kind of funny was
Which one?
there was a city council order. I think it was from Councilman Mallon and maybe a few others back in the springtime, asking to have the front of City Hall lawn turned in, made
Oh
available
yeah, I
for
didn't
like
see. I couldn't find that.
recreation.
Is that a city manager's agenda?
That was right very early on. Yeah.
Yeah, but did he give a report back?
Yeah,
on
there was
it?
a report back.
Okay, I didn't.
So anyway, it was they wanted to do games like cornhole, which I
Right.
didn't even know what that was, but I guess it's like beanbag.
It's like a big hole in a platform.
Right.
Yeah.
So it gets referred to the city solicitor has to research the matter, and then they came back with the report, and well, Nancy Glover, Cambridge City Solicitor,
Yeah,
says it's
which is-
okay to play cornhole.
Oh wow. Okay.
But it makes me laugh sometimes
Yeah,
because
that we
if
had to
this
have
was
that,
if this
yeah.
was any other city in any state in any country,
Yeah.
and somebody said, "Hey, let's set up a few cornhole games in front of the building," people go, "Oh, yeah, let's do it," or "Let's not do it." I don't think you would do a legal research project
Well,
on it.
why was there a legal?
So Cambridge.
No, but why was there? Who objected to it? There wasn't an objection to using that space for that.
I think
I'm
the
trying to
only
remember the
well, I think there
original,
was a little bit of a reference in there.
Yeah.
About City Hall employees. I think if the
Oh,
City
okay.
Hall employees felt that their workplace
Was going to
basically
be a playground. Yeah.
right, and then every
see.
time they went in and out of the building, they were somehow going to give a.
But wasn't it
Did-
certain hours that could be used? Wasn't it when the city was not had their office hours? think that was
not
the
sure.
point,
I know
was
the
weekends.
food trucks actually. They actually have food trucks in front of City Hall now, Thursday through Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that makes sense.
Check
I mean,
it
I could
out.
see-
Check it
I mean,
out.
Fridays they close at 12 anyway. So.
Right.
You
So
know.
it shouldn't be a conflict really, but I still got a kick out of the fact that
Yeah.
it was this big research. But that said, I have to say when either the historical commission or the city solicitor does a research project, I do find the reports interesting.
They definitely get.
You actually learn something. Go,
Yeah.
oh well, So
Yeah.
this whole thing about I mean I knew that City Hall
Our
was
public
donated money.
servants work. hard.
City Hall was
Yeah.
one of the Ringe gifts. Frederick Hastings Ringe donated the property for the manual training school, which doesn't exist anymore,
Where the high school is.
and the library
Right.
and City Hall. The
Yeah.
manual training school became Ringe Tech and is now sort of part of Cambridge Ringe Latin School, but
But
the original building is long gone.
But
yeah.
don't the archway though at
No,
the
no.
corner isn't that from that?
No,
Is that from
no,
Cambridge
no.
Latin?
Actually, if you go down Trowbridge Street and you're facing the library as it is
Yeah.
right now, and
Yeah.
you bang into Broadway and you're looking at the
Yeah.
library,
Yeah,
you would have seen off to your left.
that's where the
That's where the
right.
original
So
manual
what's that
training school
archway
would have
that they
been.
saved from the original
That's
building?
from the Latin school.
That is the Latin school. Okay,
Yeah, yeah. I think it even says Latin school.
it
right
does.
over
You're
the
right.
arch.
I was just
Yeah, so I remember that building stood, I think, until about around time when I moved here, 1978, thereabouts. 78 or 79 is when they knocked it down. Right, so, and then they moved, there used to be more of a park on the Cambridge Street side, and they moved the
Right.
building over to where the park was and moved the park to where the building was. They just did a swap.
Little fact, back when my daughter was rowing for the high school, they actually, that school, whatever, had a rowing team, which flies in the face of you have to be an elitist. And
Right.
there's actually an oar or something, or a paddle, that's in one of that building. Good. Bill Bates, who was the head of athletics, showed it to us. This
Yeah.
was years ago.
Yeah.
So it was a working class sport.
Right, yeah. But the reason why it's a rather strange name, Cambridge Ringe and Latin School, that's a very
That's-
weird name, isn't it?
But that's why, because it was
Yeah.
Frederick Ringe first, and then they
Right, but it
yeah.
was, it was the manual training school, there was the Latin school, and then there was is it the Latin school and the English school? But the thing is
Yeah.
it was kind of class distinctions.
Well, no,
There were-
English was Boston, wasn't it? Boston English.
yeah,
Did
so
Cambridge have one?
maybe it was Ringe, you went to Ringe or the
Or
Latin
you went
school.
to Latin.
Cambridge Latin.
Right.
So the thing is that,
Now
if you
it's
came from certain
Cambridge
sort of
Ringe and Latin. Right.
juicy backgrounds, maybe you were in
Yeah.
one school, and
Right.
if you're a working class kid from East Cambridge, maybe you went to the other. So I think, by the time late 70s was happening, people wanted to kind of,
Yeah. Well, then you had
Equalize
the
a little
pilot
bit.
school and all that stuff. That's gone.
yeah, they were doing all sorts of
Well, we need.
experiments at the time.
I don't know. You read there's no construction workers in this country, there's no plumbers, electricians, there's all these jobs, it'd be great training, and I wish we'd
It's a lot of
stop
work to be
saying
done.
4 years of college for,
Right.
we need both. You
I
need to be
think we need
educated,
both.
but you need the trades.
It's really true.
So
Absolutely
STEM
true.
is okay, but are we including working with your hands and learning how to take things apart and,
Yeah.
I guess
no,
that's part of all of it, but we really, when you read it, there's a labor shortage in this country because
That's right.
it's so low, the employment rate, and yet the jobs that are truckers, they need truckers.
That's right. And the thing is that everybody, when they talk about income inequality, people will often say, well, you can't raise a family flipping burgers at McDonald's. They say, true.
Well, then we need to train people to do these
So,
better jobs.
but if you're
then.
working as a plumber,
my gosh,
especially if you're the
electrician.
plumber
Well, you
I
have
owe
to-
for paid recently.
But even a construction labor, well, there's a lot of illegal.
Yeah.
I don't
No,
know.
but
That's a
the
whole other issue.
The
yeah.
thing is that
Yeah.
people in the trades, you can actually make a good living.
Oh,
Yeah.
plumbers and
So-
electricians, forget it. They can make a lot of
So
money. I know
I
them.
think it's a
And
pretty
you know them. But
right. I think it's a
but
pretty
even
essential tool
without
for
being that,
income
construction
equality.
labor and everything is just.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know how many other items you found particularly thrilling or interesting.
Well, the one
at
about the
council
Jerry's Pond, I just wanted to bring
Oh,
that
yeah.
up real quickly,
Okay.
and I found my email because they, basically it was saying that we couldn't. It's a private entity that owns it, and they're not.
Right. So the story is that
Right.
there was a council order, I think in June.
Right, to look
that
at
was-
funds called targeting brownfields
Right.
funds from
Yeah.
the federal government.
And the problem is that Jerry's Pond, which is borders it's right behind the fence, right next
Right.
to Ringe Avenue, and I think it's just a sort of a old clay pit pond,
But
from
it is
the brick
owned by
industry.
this separate company.
Right, it was usually
Yeah.
Dewey and Almy was right around it, and then W.R. Grace owned it, and then I don't know who the subsequent ownership was, but
Yeah.
it went through some. I think it was polluted going way back, but then there was a
W.R.
kind of a
Grace, yeah.
shady period where
Yeah.
it was kind of a throwaway site. So
Yeah.
you found naphthalene and various other things, including some asbestos. Though I don't know what type of asbestos. Lisa Burke was saying how it's loose asbestos. I've heard some people suggest it was a lot of roofing materials, just shingly materials were put in there. I have no idea.
But a brownfield is basically, it's not like a Superfund site. Is it in between, like
It's an
clean
in-betweener,
and
yeah.
in other words, it's
So
got stuff in
it's-
it, but
Right.
you need to have remediation or something.
Right, and you can't just build on it. So, so the thing is that there it is. It's a potential. It's actually kind of a natural resource. There's wildlife in there.
Right.
It would be kind of nice if it didn't have a cyclone fence around it.
But we don't own it.
We don't own it. So
No.
the thing is that what should happen there? I remember some years ago when there was a sort of activists who were very, very worked up trying to block anything and everything that would happen around the Alewife area. And if you look at it, where Fresh Pond Parkway cuts through, the Alewife Tea Station that we think of is on the west side of the
Yeah.
road. On the east side, there's a head house for the tea because it was supposed to come up to a place where there was going to be stuff happening. Whether it was back then it might have been office and such. Today it might have been residential. But the thing is, there was supposed to be something happening. But then when all the toxicity was found and emphasized, let's also be clear, there was a lot of emphasis put on it. I think it was done because they didn't want anything built.
Right.
At least the activist group, like North Cambridge Stabilization, they just didn't want anything built there. So what's the end result? Basically, you have a kind of a toxic laden area, fenced off on either side of the walkway between Russell Field and the Alewife Tea Station. There's a head house, which is obviously meant to handle, people coming in and out of the tea for a lot of stuff, and it's basically out in the middle of farmland.
Yeah.
And it's just sitting there forever, like a sarcophagus, just a toxic sarcophagus. And I think, we got to do better than that.
Right.
But you're right, it's privately owned.
And they don't want to do anything, I guess.
Actually, I think they indicate that they would like to do something in the future, but, I think sometimes when you're dealing with toxic sites, you need a really big economics incentive in order for anything to happen. I mean, case in point, Sullivan Courthouse.
Yeah.
Asbestos-laden building, sick building, the state, the county criminal justice system moved all their offices out of there some years ago, and it just sat there like a sarcophagus in East Cambridge, right? and then the state wanted to lose it, and the only way they could do it is they had to get a developer who was going to, be able to develop it with enough economic potential
And that's really
to
what,
cover the cost of the
we're
cleanup.
not gonna be able to get federal funds because it's, according to eligibility, which I was looking at, they must be public entities or nonprofits who partner with a
Right.
public entity. They're not a public entity.
Right.
So there is no,
So
we can't go back to
Right, so-
the government,
So
EPA to get
Councilor
funding.
Siddiqui's wish, very
Yeah.
good wish, to have
Yeah.
something good come out of this place, which was a crap hole
Right.
right across from where she grew
Or at
up.
least to see if
and
we
she
can get
never
these
loved it.
funds, we're not gonna be able to get them.
Right, so she wants to
Yeah.
see something good come of that place. I think everybody loves to see something
Yeah.
good of it, but the
But
thing
it's
is
really
that,
in the goodwill of the property owner.
well, and economic conditions. So ultimately,
True,
if a project was permissible there, that had enough economic potential to
Yeah.
actually, and maybe with some subsidy
Well,
from
it's
some
interesting,
source.
it says if the site is currently not owned by the applicants, being us, the
Right.
site should be abandoned. An abandoned site for the purposes of this program is a site where the current owner has shown no interest in the property, has not paid tax, well, they're paying all their
Yeah,
taxes.
it's all covered, right.
Yeah, so I think that we
Yeah.
just have to keep,
But
I
to me,
guess, talking with them.
it's just a municipal embarrassment to have
Yeah, right in the,
have this
Yeah.
gated off.
But we have no power
there.
unless, and you take it by eminent domain, which we said,
You work with the
forget that.
property owner.
You don't do that,
You
right.
coax
He
them
doesn't wanna go there.
to whatever
right.
degree you can
Yeah.
make help conditions along
Right.
to create some economic incentive for them
Right.
to move on it.
Right.
I don't know what else you can do, right?
You can't build on it though, right? Isn't it not buildable? 'Cause is it in an area,
You
is
can
it a
build.
wetland? You can?
Well,
Is
not
it a
on the pond,
wetland?
but it's funny. Maybe
I
you can
don't
call it a
know.
wetland, but I've always been.
I don't know,
I
I
have
throw
to
that
tell
word
you,
around when I see that it's
I
not,
personally have always been confused by the notion that you dug a hole to pull the clay out to
And
make
then
bricks.
yeah.
Rainwater filled in, turned it into a pond, and now it's wetland. To me,
Well, that's not a natural wetland.
no,
is
it's
what you're
not.
saying.
It's just
You can
basically it's a
create
hole in the ground,
wetlands though,
right?
but not there.
You're absolutely
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
right? So I'd love to see it become a nice pond with some,
Something without a fence around
and
it.
also something with some actually economic activity sort of
Yeah,
adjacent
but
to it as
that's,
well.
yeah, that's,
You know.
anyway. So what else? Okay,
Right.
so that was my thing about that, 'cause
Yeah.
I just
Um,
felt frustrated. by
Yeah, I
it.
don't know so much about last night at the meeting. There were definitely
There
a
were other
few
things.
other items, but there are other things that are happening. The city council may not be meeting
Yeah.
proper until mid-September, but there are other things happening. There's a
Well, July 31st, the state they're furiously working over it on the Hill to get things passed tonight. This is the
is
last.
today the deadline?
And
So
they
they were
did
doing
do
a lot of
and they
overrides
did do
at
the
governor's
Airbnb
vetoes.
rental
right.
thing, so Craig should be happy about that one.
Should be happy about that.
'Cause he didn't think the state would come through, but they certainly did, and now people
Yeah.
are up in arms about that.
That's right.
It's taxes upon tax, and something where I read that we're gonna have to redo our ordinance. Why would we have to redo it?
I don't know that we have to do it because
Something
it depends
I
on
read that said Cambridge will have to relook at. I
You know,
don't know.
part of the provisions that was, the industry people from Airbnb and those similar companies were,
Expedia owns HomeAway in Verbo, which I didn't know.
Right.
The other one.
but they wanted to set up a certain regulatory framework that
Yeah.
would have restricted local control. And basically
No,
the
that's
state law
gone.
would just eclipse it. So my understanding, and again, I haven't read this closely, is that in fact, that was a sticky point, was that the individual cities and towns would retain a lot of some local
The
control.
state wants city and towns to create their own things. They're just
Right.
imposing the tax thing.
Right, and just
So-
you're basically empowering the city
Right.
to actually get
And you
tax
can even
money.
add more taxes
Basically,
than the state one, which is
the-
6 point.
Yeah, city
7
can
or
get a
something.
hotel tax now on a hotel. So now they basically said
Right.
Airbnbs can be treated like hotels.
Right,
And I
so
think
now-
it's different rates if you're a industry person keeping.
I
them
would
or-
hope so. That
whatever.
wasn't clear.
Or like a homeowner
whether
just
you're,
renting a room.
you're
Yeah.
if you're not the owner occupant.
Yeah. So anyway, that's happening. By the way, let me say one
Yeah.
last thing that did. I think it got moved along. It's now a new zoning petition
Uh-oh.
was the cannabis one. So
Oh, that is a whole other thing to me. I
That's-
don't get that at all.
well,
I'm just so confused by all of it.
I'm actually a little confused myself.
No, but I just feel like, I'm sorry, I think smoke is smoke and pollution is pollution. And
I know it.
Candies look like candy, and I don't know
I
what's
know.
going to happen.
I don't know what's going to happen. It's a brave new world. But
It is.
somebody suggested to me that
Brave New World, Aldous Huxley.
There you go.
He was stoned all the
He
time.
was,
wasn't
yeah.
He? Okay,
Yeah, I
there
think
you go.
actually a couple of the people who were testifying were last night too.
Really?
Yeah.
I missed
When
those.
one guy's eyes were darting. It was funny.
Somehow,
Um,
they did public comment? on
During
the
public
matter?
comment, yeah,
Oh,
yeah. You know, so, but there's one of these places is going to move into Morris Nagar's building, at least is planning to,
In Central
Square. And they're again opening as a medical marijuana
Oh, so it's a
dispensary.
medical marijuana.
They're called something like Revolutionary Pot or something like that.
Uh-oh.
But anyway, but it's, I think everybody in the room knows that their intention is to become a recreational.
Well-
we're not supposed to say. Here's words I'm not allowed to say anymore.
What?
Can't say marijuana. You have to say cannabis
Okay.
because Quentin Zondervan gets mad
All right.
otherwise. And you're not supposed to say recreational marijuana. Oh, excuse. Oh,
What do you say?
recreational cannabis.
Okay.
You're supposed to say adult use cannabis.
Oh, but so is medical marijuana adult use.
This is just ridiculous semantics
Well,
to me. But
I would rather see, if you're going to have whatever you want to call it, in the same establishment as medical. Because
Well, that's
to me, they've already have
I-
a framework to go with,
I mean,
right?
pardon my cynicism, but
Yeah.
the thing is that I never
want it centralized.
thought the medical marijuana dispensaries were anything other than a first step toward this. In fact, I said it years ago.
Well, they're already operating. I don't even know about them, so that's a good thing, right?
Right. So the thing is, they got their foot in the door early, so
Yeah.
therefore they get the advantage.
How many do we
they
have?
can build
There's
up a
one
customer
in
base quicker than anybody else.
Cambridge?
None of them are open yet. At least
The
that-
medical marijuana ones?
I don't believe so.
No, I thought there was one open.
Really, in Cambridge?
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe
somebody,
so.
I don't
Maybe
know.
so.
Okay.
But the thing is that
Jeez, 'cause that was passed a long time ago.
yeah.
I
yeah,
think there is. I think you're wrong, but I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe.
Somebody let Robert know.
I guess I don't use medical marijuana.
Well,
Cannabis.
somebody said there was one in near Fresh Pond.
They were supposed to open one up. Tim Flaherty was the lawyer for that.
Alright, so maybe it doesn't
did they
exist
actually
now.
open up? They might have. I don't know.
God, it's been like 3 years.
Yeah, but here's something. A person who I know and trust, who understands these things.
Yes.
Because I thought, all right, well, you can just have like a pot shop, right?
Can we
You
have
know?
them as a guest? They don't
We-
want to reveal themselves?
We've had this
Oh,
person as a guest.
oh, okay, never mind.
So,
All right.
what my understanding
Yeah.
is that, if you have this notion that somehow there's going to be sort of these seedy lowlives who are just going there
No.
buying a pot,
No.
this is probably going to be like,
It's going to be expensive.
designer stuff. This
Yeah.
is designer
So
stuff.
you're still going to
This
have
is-
probably
this
a
is-
black market.
This is all about making dough here. This
I know.
is just
Because they have
big
to
money.
add taxes to that.
Yeah. So
It's
this
going to be expensive.
and they're primarily going to sell sort of the primo stuff and the sketchy guys in Central Square. They're probably still going to be picking their stuff up in a back alley from a guy named Louis or something.
Oh,
Did I say Louis? Nothing personal, Louis. So so I think that people's perceptions about what's actually this is really
Yeah.
going to be like. I don't think it's going to be like the end of the world either. By the way, I think it'll be a bit like a liquor store in some
I
respects.
guess, but it's the types and the varieties and whether you eat it, whether you
Yeah.
smoke it, where do you smoke it?
Yeah.
Smoke is smoke. I don't like being around cigarettes. I
Well,
don't like
I mean-
being, and marijuana has a much more lasting.
I think it was
smell.
Councilor Kelly was bringing up this issue. Is that
Well, he's had hearings on this.
right? But the
Yeah.
thing is okay. So technically, even if recreational cannabis is legal, then the city says and the police department says you're not supposed to do it in the street. You're not supposed to do it in the public park.
They're not gonna, but they're not gonna arrest people. They're just gonna say move on.
And if you were trying
Yeah.
to do it in my building, I'd say you can't do
Right,
it in
the
my
same
building.
thing. If you don't allow smoking it for your
Right.
tenants, you're not gonna allow that.
Right. So the thing is that so there's this
So
there's
where
this
do you do it
suggestion.
then if it's legal?
Well, that's what's being suggested. If you now
Well,
and
that's why we have bars.
well, some people have suggested actually
You
having
need a cannabis bar.
a cannabis bar.
Well,
Yeah.
you know what? I guess I have to agree
You
with
know,
that.
I guess I could probably warm up to the idea.
If you're gonna
Yeah.
have bars, which came about because you couldn't drink alcohol on the street,
Yeah.
although you could drink it in your home, but
Yeah.
you can eat edibles in your home as long
Right.
as you keep them out of the kids' way.
Yeah.
Ugh.
If I could ban the edibles, I would do it in a heartbeat. There's something about that
actually, well,
scares the daylights out
It
of me.
scares me, but on the other hand, it does solve the problem of smoke and smell.
I agree.
So, but you're right, the
I just-
control of it, I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, just the notion about,
It's a whole new world, like
Yeah.
you said. I don't know if
Yeah.
it's a brave one, though.
right,
I don't think
right.
it's brave.
So,
I think it's
anyway, it's gonna be a little weird.
depraved. Maybe
Well, anyway,
it's a
we-
brave new world.
Looks like we're getting one in Central Square, probably. But then again,
Oh
it's in
my
Morris
God.
Nagar's
But
building.
we're also
and
getting a police station, so
Yeah.
that's good.
Morris's building, by the way, was supposed to have a PetSmart in that spot. This is where
Which
the
is his building again?
Well, it's where the Blockbuster used to be.
Oh.
And then it
Whoa.
was supposed to be a PetSmart was supposed to move in there, or
Oh.
Petco, excuse me, Petco.
Oh, but they hate
And
us
then
because
and
of
then
the
they,
new
they
animal.
saw
Right.
Morris's lease conditions,
Oh.
and then they said, "What? We have to get out in a year if you tell us
Oh,
to
was
get out
that his
because you want
lease
to do something."
conditions?
Yeah, he had
But I
like
thought
a
it was
demolition
also
clause.
our ordinances about animals and stuff. they
That's
close
why
one
Petco and
left in
PetSmart,
Kendall?
they're not coming
Yeah,
back.
right.
Exactly right. In fact, there's a matter in front of the BZA. No, excuse me. There's a planning board tonight
Oh.
about a building on First Street where they applied for a change in zoning because they were originally going to have space for the Petco,
Right.
and then Petco said we're not doing business in Cambridge
I thought
anymore.
Petco was there.
So
in that
they want to
First Street,
change
yeah.
out the retail space to
Oh.
office space
Oh.
because there's no more Petco.
Hmm.
So seems like a reasonable thing. Planning
I
board,
guess.
pass it. It's good.
Yeah.
You know?
It gives
So-
the city money. Right.
Yeah, but anyway, we'll see whether this actually
Oh.
materializes here up at Morris's building because, we'll see. Maybe if they're planning to be there for 20 years and the lease condition says, if I give you 6 months notice, you got to be out of
That's
there,
crazy.
then they'll
Business
disappear.
can't operate
So
like that.
we'll
Now,
see.
I think there's a couple meetings next week. You could look on your site.
Yeah,
City site. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's some important ways. The planning board tonight that
There's
has to do with
something
that
on the
First
7th
Street.
before our show.
Tomorrow, there's, if you're interested in a Harvard Square kiosk working group, they're meeting
Oh,
up
no.
at the
No
City Hall
thanks.
Annex at 5:30.
What's on August 7th?
Gigantic property being proposed by
Where?
Boston Properties right in the heart
Where?
of Kendall Square where the Coop building is. They wanna
Oh.
go right up to the sky.
Oh, I didn't
So,
know about that.
Open house tomorrow if you're interested.
Oh, okay.
I looked at that and I'm kind of warmed up to tall
Is this
buildings
on your
now, but
site? I'll
yeah,
have to look at
I
that.
looked at it and I
didn't
went,
see
what the, right?
it. Oh, wow.
Anyway, several other items coming up here.
August
so-
7th, Public Safety Committee to talk about
At
the
Central Square
Substation.
So,
Okay.
anyway, it looks like we're out of time.
All
and
right. We'll
so-
see you next week. I don't know what we'll talk about, but we'll
We'll
be
figure
here.
something out.
All right.
See you then.
Good night.